I'm talking about the kind of diplomacy that's going to end the destruction of your country.
Yes, but if you
Mr. President, with respect, I think it's disrespectful for you to come into the Oval Office and try to litigate this in front of the American media. Right now, you guys are going around and forcing conscripts to the front lines because you have manpower problems. You should be thanking the President for trying to bring an end to this conflict.
Have you ever been to Ukraine that you say what problems we have?
I have been to.
Count once.
I've actually watched and seen the stories, and I know what happens is you bring them on a propaganda tour, Mr. President. Do you disagree that you've had problems bringing people into your military? And do you think that it's respectful to come to the Oval Office of the United States of America and attack the administration that is trying to prevent the destruction of your country?
A lot of questions. Let's start from the beginning.
Sure.
First of all, during the war, everybody has problems, even you, but you have nice ocean and don't feel now, but you will feel it in the future. God bless.
You don't know that.
God bless. God bless. You will not have a war.
Don't tell us what we're going to feel. We're trying to solve a problem. Don't tell us what we're going to feel.
I'm not telling you.
Because you're in no position to dictate that.
That's exactly
Remember
what
this. You're in no position to dictate what we're going to feel. We're going to feel very good.
You will feel influence.
We're going to feel very good and very strong.
You will feel influence.
You're right now not in a very good position. You've allowed yourself to be in a very bad position, and he happens to be right about it.
From the very beginning of the war.
You're not in a good position. You don't have the cards right now. With us, you start having cards.
I'm not playing cards.
Right now, you don't.
You're
playing cards.
Mr. President.
You're playing cards.
Serious.
You're gambling with the lives of millions of people. You're gambling with World War III. You're gambling with World War III. And what you're doing is very disrespectful to the country, this country. That's back to you. Far more than a lot of people said they should have.
Have you said thank you once? This entire meeting? No, in this entire meeting, have you said thank you? You went to Pennsylvania and campaigned for the opposition in October. Offer some words of appreciation for the United States of America and the president who's trying to save your country.
Mr. President, is there no deal? Mr. President, can you tell us what happened? Is the deal off?
Shortly after that tense meeting, the Ukrainian president was seen leaving the White House early. Trump is currently en route. So actually, as we've seen, Trump has now landed in Florida. Before leaving the White House to make his way to Palm Beach, he stopped to talk about that tense meeting with Zelensky.
We had a meeting today, as you know, with President Zelensky, and I would say it didn't work out exactly great from his standpoint. I think he very much overplayed his hand. We're looking for peace. We're not looking for somebody that's going to sign up as strong power and then not make peace because they feel emboldened, and that's what I saw happening. I'm looking for peace. We're not looking to go into a 10-year war and play games. We want peace. And it was just my impression that if we do that, if we sign up, he's looking for something that I'm not looking for. He's looking to go on and fight. We're looking to end the death. 2,000 people died this week. Soldiers, more than that, but 2,000 approximately people died this week. Young Ukrainians and Russians. And somebody would say, why do you care about Ukraine and Russian soldiers? I care about them. I care about everybody. And we're not doing that. Now, if we don't do anything, he's going to have to make peace, but he's dealing with a very weak set of cards. If we sign, he's dealing with a very strong set of cards, and then he doesn't want to make peace. So that's where we are. It's very simple. I'm not looking to get into anything protracted. I want immediate peace. President Putin is going to want to make, and he wants to end it. And you saw what I saw today. This is a man that wants to get us signed up and keep fighting, and we're not doing that. Not for this country.
CBC's Richard Madden is live in Washington. He has been following this story all day long. Richard, that was an Oval Office meeting like I've certainly never seen. I know you've never seen something like that before. And you've probably watched it now throughout the day more often than I even have. So talk to me. What happened?
Yeah, I haven't seen anything like this, Sarah, at least in the years that I've been here. What happened? Well, it went from tense to shouting to off the rails. And this confrontation was jaw-dropping, to say the least. And for context here, this was a high-stakes moment for Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky. He visited the White House hoping to get security guarantees from the U.S. in a post-war scenario in exchange for U.S. access to billions of dollars worth of Ukraine's valuable critical minerals. But as you've seen in this video, things quickly unraveled. President Trump and Vice President J.D. Vance berating Zelensky for the world to see, accusing him of being ungrateful, greedy, and not wanting a peace deal at all. And these tensions were so high, I think we have a photo here, illustrated by Ukraine's ambassador to the U.S. There's a photo of her putting her hands over her face, which really illustrates just the tension in that room. Take a listen to part of this stunning exchange.
Then you tell us, I don't want a ceasefire. I don't want a ceasefire. I want to go, and I wanted this. Look, if you could get a ceasefire right now, I tell you, you take it so the bullets stop flying and your men stop getting killed.
Of course, we want to stop the war.
But you're saying you don't want a ceasefire.
But I said to you,
I want a ceasefire.
With guarantees.
Because you'll get a ceasefire faster than an agreement.
Ask our people about ceasefire, what they think.
That wasn't with me.
For you what,
that wasn't with me. That was with a guy named Biden, who was not a smart person.
So in the end, this meeting was cut off in the Oval Office. Their diplomatic chat on a diplomatic solution to the war was scrapped. Their press conference was canceled, and Zelensky was reportedly booted from the Oval Office and left without any deal at all. Trump accused Zelensky of essentially being difficult and greedy in social media posts right after. Now, something to note here is that while this is playing out very well in the MAGA base, Democrats and supporters of the Western Transatlantic Alliance are outraged. Take a listen to Democratic Senator Chris Murphy with his own theories, saying that Trump ambushed Zelensky in the Oval Office and the administration are really lapdogs for the Kremlin. Watch this.
What we just witnessed between Donald Trump, J.D. Vance, and President Zelensky inside the White House was an ambush. It was a planned ambush designed to embarrass President Zelensky in order to benefit Vladimir Putin. That was an embarrassment. That was an abomination. What you watched was American power being destroyed in the world as everybody watches President Trump become a lapdog for a brutal dictator in Moscow.
So ultimately, Zelensky leaves without a deal, and this is also raising more questions if the U.S. will continue supporting Ukraine at all as Ukraine's war against Russia enters its fourth bloody year.
So, Richard, we've heard from both Trump and Zelensky since that Oval Office exchange. What are they saying?
Well, you played a bit of President Trump speaking to reporters on the south lawn of the White House before he heads off to Mar-a-Lago for the weekend, and he's essentially defending his actions. He's accusing Zelensky of being disrespectful and not truly wanting a peace deal at all. Watch this.
I want it to end immediately. I want a ceasefire now. He says, oh, I don't want a ceasefire. Well, all of a sudden, he's a big shot because he has the U.S. on his side. Either we're going to end it or let him fight it out. And if he fights it out, it's not going to be pretty. Because without us, he doesn't win, let me tell you.
Okay, so we heard from Trump, but we also heard from Zelensky. He went on Trump's favorite television network, Fox News. Zelensky says he does want a peace deal, but Ukraine should not be excluded from any peace talks between Russia and the U.S. Zelensky also tried to explain that Vladimir Putin can't be trusted in any ceasefire deal, and that's why Ukraine needs security guarantees from the U.S. Take a listen.
I mean, this is not good for both sides anyway, and I'm very open, but I can't, change our Ukrainian attitude to Russia. And I don't want they kill us for us. This is very, very clear that Americans are the best of our friends, Europeans are the best of our friends, and Putin with Russian, their enemies. And it doesn't mean that we don't want peace. We just want to recognize the reality.
So while what happened today may shock Western allies, it is being cheered by the MAGA base. Clips certain clips of those tense exchanges have blown up on social media, and the MAGA camp is cheering this on. They view Zelensky as a grifter who's taken advantage of American generosity. So with that said, after this whole debacle, the question now, is this peace plan dead? Does the White House even want to negotiate with Zelensky? But more importantly, what concessions is Russia prepared to give up in a ceasefire? Trump insists that a deal was close. He said it just yesterday, but in the aftermath of this confrontation, this historic confrontation inside the Oval Office, the question now is, is a ceasefire even going to happen? Is a peace plan going ahead? Or have we witnessed in real time a major setback?
Richard, busy day for you. A lot of he said, but thanks for walking us through that. That was great.
You bet.
It's CBC's Richard Madden in Washington. So how are Republicans reacting to that exchange? We're now joined by Ozzie Palomo. He is a founding partner and managing director of Chartwell Strategy Group, which specializes in government relations, political risk management, and strategic communications. He's also worked closely with the Trump team since 2016. Ozzie, welcome to the show.
Good evening.
So that argument, I'm sure you've seen it many times. People have been watching it around the world. What were your thoughts when you saw it?
Well, it's certainly made for TV moment, if you wish. And really, at the end of the day, I think it's unfortunate that it happened. It's unfortunate that it happened in the Oval Office. But I think the focus now should be on how do you kind of fix it going forward. I think President Zelensky, I think the onus is on him a little bit to kind of make things better. And I think when an apology is out there, a strong apology, I think President Trump and his senior team should be willing to accept that and be able to kind of move forward, sign the Critical Minerals Pact, and really put the country forward on a path to peace, which is ultimately the presidential goal here in the United States.
So Zelensky has already been on Fox News and was pressed a couple of times whether he would apologize, and he was sort of at pains to explain why he really couldn't.
Yeah, look, there's no doubt that President Zelensky's in a tough bind here, right? I think at the end of the day, if you look at where it happened and how it happened, these press avails largely are photo ops. There are no doubt discussions and arguments behind closed doors that occur as with all diplomatic issues. But I think the onus, again, is on Zelensky to make this good to start and the Trump administration to accept it. But I don't miss the point that you made that Zelensky is in a tough situation, having to kind of, be forceful in his representation of Ukraine for the domestic audience back there, but he has to understand that the U.S. is his most critical partner going forward, and he gets nowhere if this relationship isn't fixed.
What did you make of the fact that this was before the cameras in the Oval Office? That seems to be a little unusual.
It's unfortunate. Look, these press avails, as I said, they're largely symbolic. They're photo ops. They happen. You referenced earlier the photo op with the UK Prime Minister. But look, I think the question that was posed, whether you disagree or agree with how Vice President Vance posed his comments about his thoughts that President Zelensky hadn't been grateful enough, President Zelensky should have known better. I think his staff should have prepped him more to not make a critical mistake in front of those cameras. Look, whether it's in politics or business, you know enough that once you make a sale, you stop talking. And the reality of it is if you wanted to correct Vice President Vance, the best option would have been to do it behind closed doors and to not have taken that bait by the question that was posed by that reporter and make this more of a spectacle than it needed to be.
You've worked with the Trump administration for some time now. Can you give us a sense of what you think the thought process was, the goal of having this meeting with President Zelensky in the first place? Obviously, to sign this minerals deal, but it was pretty clear. I mean, based on what we heard, clearly behind closed doors, he was against signing without some kind of security guarantee.
Yeah, and the security guarantee and the security pact, I think, puts the U.S. in a tough position. I think one of the things that the President Trump and the Trump-Vance administration have been forceful on is that we certainly want peace in Ukraine. We certainly want the conflict to end. We want the war to end. But we don't want to put any more American lives at risk or any American lives at risk. But we're certainly there to back up our ally and others. I think behind closed doors, no doubt, tough negotiations. But President Zelensky knew exactly the position that the Trump administration was on, and it has to deal with the critical minerals aspect of it. And the fact that we've already invested, a significant amount of our resources in protecting Ukraine. So it's no surprise that he came over here. He could have signed the critical minerals deal when Secretary Bessent was visiting Ukraine. He opted to get the audience in front of President Trump, rightly so. But he knew firsthand going into it that the security pact was a non-starter for us. We do not want to put U.S. soldiers and U.S. lives into Ukraine, and we don't want this conflict to escalate any further than it already has. So a lot of this, Zelensky knew going into it. He should have been better briefed by his staff and his ambassador to be able to say, don't fall into the trap when the cameras are on. And he failed to do that, unfortunately.
Ozzie, I have 30 seconds but can you quickly tell us, do you think this deal is dead?
I don't. I think if we've learned one thing through the first Trump administration and through the Trump administration, these very long 45 days, is that he's willing to make a deal. And there is always a way back to kind of get in his good graces, I think, if you play it right. I heard the comment earlier about a constituency of one, and that's right. He is the president of the United States. He was duly elected by the majority of Americans, and he came in with an America First agenda. And I think you have to have all those things in context and an understanding of it when you're dealing with the administration, if you're willing to get something out of negotiating with this president.
Ozzie Palomo, founder and partner of managing director of Chartwell Strategy Group in New York. Appreciate your time tonight.
Thank you.